Good day, good people. How you doing? Rika Styles here. Welcome to the Dating Chronicle podcast. We're going to be talking about embracing your inner child. So I'm very excited. In this season, I'm very intentional about healing my inner child, advocating, getting delivered, speaking up, whatever it takes to give her a voice, so that she feels like she has a place in this world, something that she didn't get growing up, right? So the whole point is my adult self is to reach back a hand to her and lift her up and embrace her and let her know like you matter too, right? Because she didn't get that as a child. So that's the whole point of this season, but specifically for today's podcast, right? So welcome back to the Dating Podcast with Rika Styles. I'm your host, Rika. And today's episode is all about healing from within, embracing your inner child. And so, like I said, it's all about healing, right? That's what we're going to do. So, I want to introduce you to my guest, the wonderful, the author, Victoria Chambers. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so kind. Thank you for having me on, Rika.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate
It's,
this.
yes, it's divine. And so, before we get into the heart of healing, I'd love for you to share your journey, what led you to write your book and explore this kind of healing work. So, this is Victoria's book. I'm so excited for her. I love that she signed it for me, whatever. I got my highlighter. I didn't highlighted some things. So, I have some questions in here regarding to your book that I would love to talk about once you um, share your journey and what led you to work on healing your inner child. Like, what was that aha moment? Like, it's Vicky, right, and not Victoria.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, it started long ago. It's something that I started to recognize that there was something just not quite right, you know.
Mhm.
And I think it wasn't until I think my oldest daughter was about 28 years old, and she came to me and we were like in the midst of kind of a disagreement concerning some
Mhm.
things, and she just kind of blurted out. She said, um, she had made a comment and she said, "You're not healed." And
Mhm.
I started looking at myself. I was like, "What do you mean I'm not healed?" I'm like, "I'm healed," you know? And so I went through this process of just kind of sitting in that for a minute,
Mhm.
questioning, like, "Am I healed?" You know,
Mhm.
why is she saying that to me? And I remember talking to a couple of my closest friends, mentioning this to them because i i didn't I couldn't understand what she was seeing that I was not seeing.
Mhm.
On the surface, I thought I had everything going for me. You know, I was remarried. I had been divorced, so I was remarried, had grandchildren, you know, children, grandchildren. I was in my real estate career, which I, you know, was enjoying what I was doing. I had friends, you know, around me. And so I thought, you know, I've got to be healed, right? I
Mhm.
treat people right. You know, I believe I'm a good person. I love God. And it wasn't until I started questioning that and I got involved in a women's Bible study, which you know about this Bible study course,
Yes.
um, through Faith Citadel Church out of Michigan, Bloomfield Hills in Michigan, and under Minister Cherie. I just want to give her a shout out. But
Yes.
anyways, I um, I took that journey. So I trusted God enough to take that journey because initially part of me did not want to go on that journey. I had been
Mhm.
hurt, you know, by relationships with women. I would find myself in relationships with women where I felt like a lot of times there would be jealousy or there would be envy or there would be something
Mhm.
that would cause us to, you know, not be able to, you know, have a long relationship. Now, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I have some great friends, some ride or dies that I've had in my life, at least three of them that I can count,
Yeah.
you know, of them that I can count that I can call at any time and we can always catch up. But it was in that moment when I started questioning that I gave God my yes. And what did
Mm.
I do that for? You know, I
Yeah.
gave God my yes, and I said, God, you know what? If there's any parts of me that aren't healed, if there's anything that I need to take a introspective look at, tell me, let me know. And so it wasn't until I got into this place, allow God to take me to this secret place where I sat with him. And in that moment is when I um started to begin to pen I am victory.
Mm.
And in that moment, what I realized is it wasn't something I initially set out to do, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it was something that God called me to do. I had been carrying around pieces of this broken story, this story of silence,
Mhm.
the feelings of abandonment, the rejection, the foster care, the teen motherhood, the heartbreak, the weight of trying to be strong,
Mm.
even when I was healing myself.
I want to
And
pause
I
right there.
learned, I learned to survive.
I want to
I
pause. You said being strong. Who are you trying
Yeah,
to be strong for? Because I notice us as
yeah,
women, we have
yeah.
to wear the cape, and we rarely can take off the cape, right? But who are you being strong for? Was it to
Ooh,
have a persona that you were strong for other people, or were you trying to be strong for yourself, or
yeah.
why do you feel like you had to be strong? Who gave you that
I
job,
yeah,
that
I took on
responsibility?
that job. I thought that was my job.
Mm.
I lost my mom at 22, my biological mother at 22 years old. And then soon after, not many years later, I lost my older sister and my older brother. So I was the oldest child. I became the
Mm.
oldest child in my family, in my biological family. And so I thought I had to be strong for my sister, who was a couple years younger than me. She thought of me as the matriarch. She thought of me as her mother, and
Yeah.
I felt I had to be strong for her, but I also had to be strong for my daughters.
Mm.
So I felt this sense of you have to be strong. You got to survive. You got to
Yeah.
show them that you can make it. And so I found myself believing that I had to be strong for those around me, and at the same time,
Wow.
for dismissing myself and what I needed.
Yeah. I think we all deal with that, Victoria. At the end of the day, it
Mhm.
seems like, especially the siblings that are older, they have to take on the responsibility of being the parent, make sure they fed, make sure they clothe, right? Like that's a common
Yeah,
thing I hear when it comes to siblings, right? And so
yeah.
it's like no one asked you to be strong, but like you just
Mhm.
took that initiative to be strong because there was no one else to be,
Yeah,
right? If you wasn't doing it, then the job is going to get, how's the job going to get done at the end of the
yeah.
day, right? I appreciate you um, sharing that your healing journey. How did it sit with you when your daughter spoke those words to you? You are not healed. What did that What did that do for you?
It made me angry,
Mm.
partially because I felt like, how dare you challenge that? How dare you say that to me? All that I've been through,
Yeah.
all the pain and all the discomfort, all the fear, the abandonment, all those things that I had trapped
Mhm.
inside, that I kept inside of me, and I didn't show those parts of me, right? I didn't give a name to them. I kept them
Yeah.
bottled inside to be this strong person. But
Mm.
in
Yeah.
doing that, what I realized is that I was playing my strength. I was playing God in a sense, like trying to
Mm.
be God, trying
Yeah.
to be that savior, right? If I can be strong, then they won't have to suffer the way that I've suffered. If I can
Wow.
be this strength, to them, then maybe they can overcome the different challenges they have in their lives.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just being broken myself, just breaking myself even more and more.
Yeah.
So pushing myself down more and more.
Mm. So you're even more suffering, right?
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of people need to hear that because we go through things as women, as people,
Yeah.
and we just suppress because that's the generation that I come from, right? They sweep everything under the rug, they don't talk about it,
Yeah.
right? And that is unfortunately not the way to go because now when things bother us in life or on the job or with kids, we're like, oh, it's okay, just push it down, push it down. Next thing you know, we're exploding on the wrong people, right? The people we love, and now
Yeah.
that's hurting them. There's a couple things in your book. Make sure y'all go get it. It is on Amazon. That I was reading, and I wanted to ask you questions in regards to it. I highlighted it so I don't forget. And so this is in, I don't know how, okay, I think this is in chapter 7. I am victory. No, the overcomer, right?
Okay.
It's on page 152. And it says, someone who has not taken the necessary steps towards healing will not be able to render any help to you.
Mhm.
That says a lot right there, right? Sometimes we must be selfish when it comes to your healing. Do not let anyone or anything stand in your way of you reaching such freedom in your life. Oftentimes we can't wait. Oftentimes we can want healing for someone else more than they want it for themselves. If you are not careful, you will find yourself compromising your freedom to set them free. That is deep. And I would love for you to speak to that.
Yeah.
I'll share quick testimony that is real. I lived through it. I was in a situationship on and off for 3 years, and I wanted more healing for him than he wanted for himself. Like I went to therapy because I was like, "You're triggering me. Let me go figure out what's going on with me. Let's do couples therapy." Like I was doing the work, and when I looked up, like I was almost at the finish line. Healing is never a finished process, right? But I was more within the race than he was. He never got in the race. He was at the beginning line, right? And I had to realize I have no strength to change anybody.
Yeah.
All I can do is pray and release them to God and was like, God, do your will, have your will in their life, right? Just continue to plant them seeds. So when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that speaks to me because I actually lived it. And it is true. If you don't do your own healing, you can't dig anybody else out, right? You got to dig yourself out first. But if a person is truly not on a healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to change, not
Yeah.
at all. And you can't change them.
Yeah. This is why, when you're on an airplane,
Mm,
and the flight attendant comes out before you take off, and she gives you the spiel about if the cabin loses pressure, uh,
mm-hmm.
you're to put your own oxygen mask on first before you attempt to help anyone else. Um, that was a very painful experience, a very painful um, conclusion I came to. And I
Mm,
only came to this conclusion because I allowed myself to become vulnerable in that secret place with God. When I gave him my yes, that meant, that I had to allow him to remove the fears. And so I had this fear of losing people. I had this fear
mm,
of um of failing others, right?
yeah,
I took it on myself and thought, I need to I need to pull these people and bring these people with me on the healing journey. And the more that I did this, I tried this in multiple different relationships, right? And the more I tried, the more I pulled at them, the more they rejected me, the more they pulled away. And they would say things like, "Oh, you think you think you're perfect, or you
yeah,
think you don't do any wrong, or who do you think you are?" In a sense. And it was a very painful reflection when in it, and in that time, that when God spoke to me and He said, "These are my children. You know,
yeah,
you're not responsible for my children. You Meaning
mm,
you're not their savior, right? You're not their God. Like, they are
yeah,
mine. They belong to me."
yeah,
And He said, "You have to know that not everybody's going to come with you on the journey." And that was so painful. I remember just crying and
yeah,
sobbing. And I remember going through this time of just having to let go,
yeah,
having to come to this place. And it's very painful when you
mm,
realize that not everybody wants to heal, not everybody wants to do the work. it,
yeah,
it is it's painful
it
in the
is.
first say it is painful. You feel like you're being slayed, you're being ripped
Mhm.
apart, you're being, it is very painful. But I promise you, when you get to that place of, allowing that surgery, that heart
Yes,
surgery to
yes,
take place, it gets better. It
yep,
gets better. And
yeah.
but there's people that don't even want to face that. There's people
Nope.
that don't even want to, they don't want to begin to unpack, because there's a lot of unpacking. There's a lot of things that have been piled up on top of you that you don't even realize that they're there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma that hides who you truly are, who that
Yep.
child that you were, getting back to that place of acceptance and saying, you know what, it's okay that I was this curious child. It's okay that I was this fun child, that I,
Yep.
love to play, and I can be her again. I don't have to put
Mhm.
this wall up and be this
Yep.
strong, defensive, and self-acclaimed
Mhm.
warrior or self-acclaimed survivor, right?
Right.
I can allow myself to
Mhm.
feel the different feelings that I'm allowed to as a child,
Right.
and not have to explain them.
Yeah. That's really good. Like you really spoke to a lot of things. A lot of people have covered their wounds with accolades.
Yeah.
They've covered their wounds with money and titles. Um, they put on this mask, right? They like, oh, as long as the outside looks good,
Yeah.
then no one will know, right? But how long will you sit with a homemade band-aid or patch and you're bleeding out, your stitches are coming open, right? How long will you hide that wound? Or will you ask for help? Or will you actually take the time to remove the bandages and go to the hospital and say, I need
Yeah.
help, right? Just like
Yeah.
going to a therapist or going to friends and family or trusted people to say, hey, I'm really hurt. I'm really broken. I'm really down. I see that I have a pattern and I need help because I don't want to go through this pattern anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking to my own personal experience. Like I just noticed every certain times of the year, I have
Mm-hmm.
different behaviors, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll be like really high, come like
Mm-hmm.
spring, summer, fall, it's like really high and really good. Then
Yeah.
come winter time, it's like my behavior or energy is really low, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, but it was a pattern. And I learned it was a pattern because it was a generational curse. Not that I was high and low for any reasons, but there were demonic attacks that were happening that would
Yeah.
cause me to get emotional or to show up a certain way and things like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, I'm tired of going over this mountain. I'm tired of going through the same thing. And that's what I personally learned, that there's some healing that needs to be done, right? There's some
Yeah.
core healing of my inner child, I call
Yeah.
her Riri, that needs to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to give my story, just briefly here, I, raised with a single parent. She worked 2 to 3 jobs, so she was emotionally unavailable. She knew how to provide. She knew how to feed me, clothe me, whatever. She knew how to work. Those are the great things that I learned from her.
Yeah.
But while she was doing that and having many jobs and still going back to get her high school diploma, because she dropped out shortly after I was born to make sure she can take care of me, right? And she left me with people, and the people that she trusted that she left with me, you know, I have a cousin Charles on my mom's side who played games and manipulated and molested me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as an adult that showed up in dating as manipulating, playing games,
Yeah.
playing mind games, like getting men to do things that I wanted to do. And so that behavior was learned at a very young age. And
Mm-hmm.
that is why I'm doing this season as far as healing my inner child, embracing her, because the things that was imposed on her wasn't the true intent of God, right? It was somebody else's perspective. So it's like I'm taking off this mask. I am taking off this heart that people had embedded on me that wasn't my own, right? I'm taking off the mindset that people of words that people spoke into my life, right? And it's like putting on the armor of God, right? I'm
Yeah.
putting on the helmet of salvation. Did I say that right?
Yep.
The helmet of salvation, right? I'm taking everything that was of the world and embedded in me, I'm putting on the armor of God every single day because it is a battle um, of us reshifting and changing our mind of just say 25 years you're so used to going right, going right, going right, and here somebody come tell you go left. I don't know how to go left. I only know how to go right. So it's a transition to help change and shift our mind um, out of those default bad habits, right? Like even today, I had a situation, and I'm just talking to my old self, my younger self, and I'm like, don't revert back to shutting down. Don't revert to going back into that show. Don't revert with pushing people away and you figuring it out. You have a beautiful group of women that you can reach out to and they can pray for you. They can uplift you. They can give you music to listen to, right? And so I was at war. I was at tug of war with younger me because she just wanted to shut down and
Yeah.
just say F the world at the end of the day. And I'm like, we can't live like that anymore, right? There was a purpose in that assignment. The assignment is done. Let's move on, right? So um, we have to definitely be aware of our triggers and our traumas and how they show up so that we can say, hey, is this the younger you or is this adult you? Is this Vicky
Right.
or is this
Yeah.
Victoria? Is this
Yeah.
Riri or is it Rika, right?
Yeah.
But it even takes a lot to get to those steps. So I just want to commend you for being so brave to put your business out here by writing a book
Mhm.
because you're setting people free, right? Which is the whole point of doing this podcast. And there's one thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
The title of this one is still in the Overcomers chapter
Mhm.
called Slaying My Giants. Does my heart recognize pain? My heart goes out to those in bondage. I spent many years in bondage, so I know all too well what bondage feels like. What did bondage feel like to you?
Wow, that's a really good question. Bondage really felt like, for me, I just recall bondage. It was like for a few different things. Like I entered into relationships that, with this fear of abandonment, so I would put up with a lot of different things. Um, I would people please, you
Mm,
know, and I would tend to get with um, partners that were emotionally withdrawn from the relationship. I would they would be emotionally unavailable partners, and then I would
mm,
need assurance, and I would want control. Right, I would be looking to have some type of control in the
mm.
relationship. I had a difficulty trusting love or maintaining healthy boundaries in relationships, so I would let things go. I wouldn't say
Oh,
anything. There would be things
yeah.
happen. And then I had this communication issue. I would have a fear of speaking up. I found myself over explaining myself all the time,
Come
like
on.
over explaining myself, becoming defensive, shutting down when I got triggered. And then I would avoid emotional vulnerability
Hmm.
sometimes, and I felt misunderstood a lot, and unseen was a big one. And so this bondage had me being a perfectionist
Yeah.
and
Mm, yeah.
an overachiever. I was
Hmm.
a harsh critic on myself. Many times I would have this imposter syndrome.
Mm.
I would have difficulty receiving love and compliments, and even to give myself rest, right? I just go, 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 go,
Mm.
wouldn't give myself rest. And then that shame and that guilt that was tied to mistakes that were made, beating
Yeah.
myself up. And then just really putting a lot into my performance, putting a lot into my parents. Um, just those wounds that
Yeah.
stemmed from childhood. Those were things that kept me bound. Those were things that I didn't even recognize that I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was so crippled, right?
Mm.
Crippled by the wounds.
Yeah. Wow. That is a lot of truth that you just spoke. And as you were saying every single thing, I'm looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's like I'm looking at you confess everything that I was dealing with myself.
Yeah.
So the fact that the two people here on this podcast have
Yeah.
experienced that the sabotage, the people pleasing, the not speaking up. There has to be more women that
Yeah.
has dealt with that, right?
Well,
So
men,
you
not
go
just
ahead,
women.
sorry.
Like this
Yeah,
is.
yeah, men too. Absolutely. Men too. We can't forget
Mm-hmm.
about the men. So you
Mm-hmm.
spoke about all the ways how you showed up. When was
Mm-hmm.
the moment you got free? What did that feel like? What did that
Mm.
look like? And how do you operate now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I gave God my yes, and I sat with Him and He began to speak to me, and I tell you, my pen, I couldn't put my pen down. So
Mm,
new school, it came in the form of typing, but there was like a lot of revelations. God took me back into this place. It was like I had this window seat into my childhood in
mm,
different moments, even in my young adult life. So I'm 52. He took me back. Like it seemed like I went back every 10 years. I
wow.
went back into the space of and revisited different relationships, revisited different things that happened
Mhm.
in my life, and that was very painful. But I saw the revelations. I
Yeah.
saw where things from childhood impacted things that happened to me as an adult and as a
Mm,
young woman. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, that's the reason for this. That's the reason for that. I saw the connections.
There you go. How
So
did
God,
you, I just
mhm,
want to pause for a second. How did
yeah.
you, when those things showed up,
Oh,
that trauma of 10 years that he
yeah.
showed you, how did you show up? Like, what was your response? What was your reaction? And how did you
Ooh,
muster up the strength to get up to go
yeah.
to the next thing that he showed you
Yeah.
without giving
Yeah.
up?
Yeah. You know, I will say that this work took me into a place, and many people don't know this. I literally moved into the basement of my house.
Yeah.
I had to be
Wow.
alone. I had to
Yeah.
go into a space where I could actually be alone, because there was times when that pain would be so deep. Uh,
Mm,
I would have to sit in it for a minute. I
yeah.
didn't, you know, uh, lash out. So I didn't. Um, I was able to hold it in that space. Like I was
Yeah.
free in this space, right? I could be in this space, and I thank my family, because they respected that I was writing my book at that time.
Mm,
Respected that I would be there and I would need some time, right? And so that was awesome. Um, I Therapy. I had my therapy appointments every week. So every
wow.
week I
Yeah.
met with therapist, and I'm still meeting with my therapist every week. We haven't
Amen.
changed our schedule yet. And then
Yeah.
the women's Bible study. The women's Bible study every week, those were my routines, and my
Mm,
prayer. As you already know about the women's prayer and the Bible
yeah.
study, those were the things that really helped me through. And prayer, I had to get up, rise up early in the morning and spend time in prayer with the Heavenly Father. And in the space being by myself, it was just me and Him. So many times I slept in this space and I was able to rest in this space
Mm,
with Him. And it was literally like He was holding me in His arms. And so
wow.
He had to show me that it was okay to be vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
This vulnerability, this that I allowed myself to be with Him. I had to. I had to foster that. I had to spend time with Him, and give Him all of me.
Yeah.
All of me. There was
That's
nobody.
really good.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
nobody that was greater, right? Nobody.
Mm.
I didn't put anybody or anything before Him.
And that's what he wants, right? The fact that
Yeah.
you said that he felt like he was holding you, right,
Yeah.
in his arms. And I know that feeling. And I miss that feeling. I can't lie. I miss that feeling. And
Yeah.
that's what God wants us to be. But I believe a lot of us are afraid to
Yeah.
allow God to see our wounds like he don't already know,
He
right?
already know. He already.
I believe that's why a lot of people run from Christ
Yeah.
because they don't want to see their own wounds or they don't want God to get too close because he will reveal their
Mm.
wounds, right? But people are
Ooh.
still hurting
Ooh.
from them. They want to be healed, but they don't want to be healed, right? They want to be healed, excuse me, but they don't want to do the work it takes.
Right.
They want a quick fix, right? They don't want to get on that operating table. They'd rather just take the pill that
Right.
is killing them. Little do they know, right? Versus getting on the operator
Yeah.
table with the Most High God, right? So I
Yeah.
believe that's why a lot of us run from Christ, because just that intimacy and that vulnerability is just
Yeah.
it's too raw,
Yeah.
right? It's too overwhelming
Yeah.
to handle.
Yeah.
And so I
It's
want
the
to
highest
go
level of
ahead. I'm sorry.
it's the highest level of intimacy, when you allow God to show you yourself and you become self-aware
Yes.
of, you know, of of your mistakes, but
Hmm.
not only your mistakes, but also um, the mistakes of other people, right? And walking in that place of forgiveness, like learning to forgive yourself for making the
Mm,
mistake, but also, and then being able to forgive others. And that's it's
absolutely.
a minute by minute, a moment by moment. It's a second by second
Yeah,
type of love to be able to walk in forgiveness. But that is what he calls for.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we have
That's
to
a great
forgive.
segue to my question on how can forgiveness, especially towards us, open the door to deeper healing,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
we have to forgive ourselves. That's
Mm-hmm.
first. Forgiving ourselves. And I recall speaking to, and I actually call my inner child. I think she's about 6 or 7 years old. I
Yeah.
actually call her Little Vicky because Little
Okay.
Vicky pops out, at different times, and she would pop out, and I would have to, let her know, like, you know, you're safe. You're safe.
Mm,
You don't have to worry. Um, and that what happened to you was not your fault. You know,
exactly.
what happened to you, yes, the adults in your life, they failed you many times,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't know better. Many times they didn't know different, they didn't know better, and they made mistakes too.
Yep, absolutely.
And
And they
so,
were probably
yeah,
broken then worse than what
right,
we were,
right,
right? And they
right,
definitely didn't have the outlets that we
yeah,
have today,
right,
right? And so it's
right,
like I'm
right,
speaking up.
right,
I
right,
believe
right.
my younger self is in teenager years. Like I have really been
Mm,
advocating, speaking up, like taking no nonsense, intolerance
mm,
um, into these dating streets. And the whole point of starting this podcast was I just kept seeing my inner child show up in dating. And
mm,
I was like,
yeah,
okay, the common denominator is me, right? Because I keep doing these patterns, not seeing, but doing
mm, mm,
these patterns. I was sabotaging good relationships. I was willing to walk away easily, no feelings, wash my hands,
mhm,
whatever it is, what it is,
mhm,
right? On to the next. And I had to realize, like, no, like he was a good guy. He was a good dude. What did he do? How did he defend you? How or
mhm.
offend you? How he triggered you? I really had to sit down one day
Yeah,
and be like, that was all you. That was all your younger self because she was so used to people getting up and just leaving, people
mhm,
using her,
yeah,
people not protecting her, or allowing her to be safe or be, a child, a kid, and just
yeah,
playful, right? So
mhm,
she would show up a lot in dating, and I was like, I got to heal myself. I desire to get married one day. I want to bring as little baggage as possible
yeah,
into my relationship, right? And I pray and hope that my partner, the one for me, is doing the same work that I am doing, right?
yeah,
To become healed, because that will make less friction in between us trying to get to know each other. Um,
right,
so I
right.
want to ask you, how unhealed child wounds affected the way you love, and attach yourself.
Mm, wow. It impacted me in many ways. I can say that what I recognize is those unhealed inner child wounds.
Hmm.
Many times I found myself I I I in my look back in my time of reflection and spending time with God. One thing I recognize is each partner that I had, and I didn't have that many partners, but
Hmm.
the men that I got involved with, um, I believe many of them had a lot of the same childhood traumas.
Yep.
So I would go and it's like we had this trauma bond.
Yeah.
I bonded
to it. Yeah.
and with some of the same trauma bonds. And the thing about me was I was always upfront about my trauma. You know,
Yeah.
I would share a lot of
Yeah.
times. I would be open about my trauma, about what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me in relationships, and but I would get with men that weren't upfront.
Come
I would
on.
get men that would hide behind my trauma, right? So they weren't really. I would share my trauma and talk about my trauma, but they would
Mm-hmm.
talk about theirs, and
Yeah.
then it would come out in different ways, right? It would come out, there would be I would, they would cheat, or they would, have this need for other women, other
Mm-hmm.
relations, or um, they would they were just childish,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of childish ways,
Yeah.
lack of commitment, right? Lack of commitment.
Yeah.
And and this, there would be these needs that they would be, I believe they were more childhood type needs. And I'll
Yeah.
say that every
Mm-hmm.
single one would have trauma related to their mother.
Come on.
And so I think that I honestly think that a lot of them, they would be attracted to me because they saw me as a good mother.
Yeah.
I would be like, I was motherly, right? And this was, I became motherly at a young age because
Yeah.
in survival, like I told you,
Mm-hmm.
I had to become that mother that I never had for myself, right? And then I had to mother my sister at a young age because we were always together in foster care. I had to mother my sister that was a couple years younger than me. So I was that matriarch. And so I would be in a relationship and I would be motherly like. And so I
Mm-hmm.
believe that they would date me or get involved with me to be mothered, to
Oh,
have, because that this was the mother they didn't know. They had.
all on that. They needed to be mothered.
Mhm.
What did that look like? What did that look like? And then how did they
Yeah.
transition from, okay, I needed a
Yeah.
mother, I got it now. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
What
I
do you
think it was,
yeah.
yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
really like they would watch, there would be that, oh, well, you're a good mother to
Mm,
my daughter. I had my daughter when I was 19 going on 20, and I think that they would be attracted because of that, because
yeah.
of how they saw me take care of my daughter and love my daughter. And I think that was something maybe they longed for,
Mm,
but at the same time, so they would look for me for that, but not necessarily for those other pieces, those those emotional they weren't able to
yeah.
be emotionally there for me, right? Like they
Mm,
expected me to be emotionally there for them, but not necessarily, it wasn't reciprocated. So a lot
yeah.
of times, in a relationship with your mother, you have
Mm,
these needs you want your mother to meet, right? You expect your mother to meet those needs.
yeah.
Don't you're as a child don't have to give back to your mother.
Exactly. What I'm telling you, I'm looking in the mirror. Everything you experience with men, I have experienced in men, looking for some type of that motherly love. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You are so motherly, you're loving, you're
Yeah.
seasoned. And I've noticed
You're
in
so
this season, I've
giving, you're so
attracted,
kind,
yeah, attracted
so
like a
giving
lot
of
of,
time.
I
Hmm.
want to go back to the things you said, like when you talked about the men that you attracted, I've attracted a lot of
Yeah.
men who are very promiscuous
Yeah.
and were used to being in the spotlight and the hotlight and had so many women flocking to them,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not doing that, right?
And they
I know
expected
my
you to
worth.
fall over them. Yeah, they expected
Yeah,
you to
I'm like,
do all of the
no,
things. Yeah,
I'm
and I'm not.
good, right? They
Yeah.
see the outside, but I see the
Hmm.
broken boy.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
believe I gotta be careful with my words.
Yeah.
I'm able to see the broken girl in women, but also the
Yeah.
broken boy in men.
Yes.
And when I bring that
Yes.
up, it's very intimidating, specifically to men,
Hmm.
right? Because they're like, oh, you see me. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I see you, but I still accept you for who you are, right? But you
Right.
need to work on that. Um, but yeah, I recognize that men would get certain things out of me because I'm a giver. a
Yeah.
caregiver, right? I take care. I just make sure
Yes.
that things are good, right? And it's like
Yes.
once that's done, it's like okay, like expectations are different.
Yeah.
But again, didn't get the emotional,
Mm-hmm.
um, the intimacy. Like let me see your
Right.
heart. Let me understand
Yeah.
your thoughts. Let me in because I'm a person that loves to understand. I love to understand my partner and understand what he is
Yes.
going through, so I know how to show up for him, right? But they couldn't do that for themselves. They and then sure couldn't do it for me. They couldn't
Oh,
be emotional with me, let alone for themselves, right? And so that just shows you how wounded men and women are out here in relationships. And
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's really sad. And like I said, I was in a situationship for on and off for 3 years, and we used to trigger each other all the time because we had that trauma bond, right? We bonded off of trauma. Our mothers was dang near similar, alike how they acted, how they treated us, right? And we would talk about it, we would laugh, but things that my mother did, he did, and the things that his mother did, I would do. And so it would trigger us both, like, you're doing that on purpose. And I'm like, I'm just swallowing my water or chewing, chewing my food, like smacking would just irritate him. It was just the
Mm-hmm.
little things. And I'm like, I'm not doing it on purpose. But it really showed me like attachment styles are real,
Yeah.
or not attachment styles, trauma bonds are real out here, right?
Yeah.
But it also gives a safe way to understand our attachment styles. You know, something I talked on the podcast with Dr. Dante. Do you
Yeah.
know what your attachment style is and how they show up now, but also how they showed up
Mm.
with the unhealed Victoria?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't. I want to say that um mm, I think for me I because I was an abandoned child,
Mhm.
abandoned by so many different people, I think I would avoid, you know,
Yep.
um,
Mhm.
that those probably getting into those really deep conversations, right? Like
Mm.
those um and I say avoid meaning like I wanted to see the I wanted to see that child, right? That
Mm.
inner child of my
Yeah.
partner, right? However, um I I probably I would say more so I wanted to see that inner child and I wanted to be there and I wanted to, love that inner child.
Yeah.
However, I think that I would probably, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't
And
know if I would.
that's a real answer, right? And I
Yeah.
do have
Like,
the tools that can provide you with that
yeah.
assessment or test
What would,
for
what
you to
was your test
understand that.
you
I
found?
was anxious avoidance, and the
Yeah.
anxious part comes from I moved around a lot as a kid, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
would get to know somebody and then I'll move. So
Mm-hmm.
like I wanted to do all these things with my partner, and like while it's
Yeah.
fresh and hot before I lose them, that was the anxious
Mm-hmm.
part, right? And then the avoidant part was
Mm-hmm.
um, the emotional detachment, right?
Okay.
Like I would easily chuck the deuces to you. It didn't bother me. Like you
Mm-hmm.
didn't get under my skin. Like they were just
Yeah.
so clueless. Like, dang, did you even care about me? I'm like, yeah, but I can easily detach from anything and anyone, right? And that came from just moving so much as a kid. I
Yeah.
got to the point in my early 20s, I realized that I wasn't willing to make any friends. And I still see that showing up today. Like it's really challenging for me to let people in, especially women, because they have done some of the most treacherous things to
Mm-hmm.
me, right? So I tread waters lightly especially when it
Yeah.
comes to women. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, the avoidant was being able to detach because I made up my mind of what's the point of making any friends? Because I'm gonna move soon anyway. I'm not gonna be able to talk to those people anymore. Like that's
Yeah.
where the avoidant came from. I avoided getting close and being intimate and letting anyone
Mm-hmm.
see my wounds.
Mm-hmm.
But there were great things that came out of the situationship I was in because it taught
Yeah.
me. that someone can truly love and care for me
Mm-hmm.
with all my wounds, with all my hats off, with all my titles put
Right.
aside. Like I was on the operating table every day of that relationship and I
Mm-hmm.
never felt judged.
Mm-hmm.
Never did he throw anything back in my face. I was like, this is da da da. He loves me unconditionally. And that was the first, even though it was dysfunctional, it was dysfunctional because we had a trauma bond that we connected on, right? That's why it was toxic. But overall, he loved me in my dirty drawers. That's
Wow.
the best way I can say it. He was there in the most times that I needed him, as well as when Malik needed him. There was times when he was not there when I needed him the most. But overall, he showed up the best that he could with all his circumstances and his traumas and things like that, right? And I noticed that in life, we give and pour into people because that's how we needed to be poured into as a child. So like
Yeah.
all that we do for other people,
Right.
that's what we needed
It
people
is,
to do
right?
for us as a kid,
That
right?
is so true. That is
Yeah.
so true. And I think, I mean, in looking at the attachment styles, I think the one that I was trying to describe and was the disorganized
Mhm.
attachment. And I
Mhm.
think, that's one that it desires closeness, but then will pull away. And
Yep.
that's what I was saying is like, I wanted that, I wanted to
Yep.
see that inner child, but then would pull away,
Mhm.
at some point, because I think initially, like, I'm expecting, I want them to come to the table with that, you
Right.
know, with that
Exactly.
with that
Right.
the open wounds, right? As I felt like I was coming to the table with those wounds.
Mhm.
And when they
Mhm.
didn't, when they and it always felt like it would be at the end when I was like,
I'm good. I'm
bye,
checked out,
I'm
right?
good, I'm checking out. Then they want to
Yep.
then they want to open up, and they'd want
Yep.
to, you know, to give, does I be close, right? And
Exactly.
divulge those things. And I'm like, I'm cool. Like
Right.
I'm
I'm good.
like it's
Yep.
over now. Like I've
Exactly.
already, I've decided that I'm taking the next train out here.
Exactly.
And so I think that that's probably more of my attachment style that I know that I um
Good. Yeah, I can see myself in that as well.
mm,
Like want that closeness, but
yeah,
I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant,
yeah,
right? Because I'm the same as you. I lay all my cards on the
yeah.
table. I know my faults. I know my
Mm-hmm,
traumas. I know my
mm-hmm,
triggers. I know the
yeah,
areas where I need to get better at. I'm working on those. Like I'm
yeah,
very open and direct and put
right.
those things forward. But I've
Mm-hmm,
also learned not to do that
yeah.
anymore because now an unhealed person would take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of that and would
Oh,
twist it and use it against you, right? Have you experienced that? And how does
yeah.
that
I feel like in most of my relationships, that's what I experience. I
go?
put myself on, on the operating table, right? And then it would be used against me. And it would always seem like it was like to break me down.
Mm,
Well, you said this
mm,
and that and the other, and I don't know what he did to you, or what they did to you. I'm not that.
right.
And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're going back and you're bringing up something that I told you.
Yeah.
But I found that, and one thing that God spoke to me, and He said to me, He said, you know what? When I have designed a man for you, when a man is who I've
Mm,
called to be with, you
yeah.
don't have to tell him
Come
about your.
on.
And
Come
when God
on.
spoke that to me, I was like, what? He said, no,
Come
you don't have
on.
to tell him about your past, because he already knows. Because I've
Right.
already spoken that to him. I've already told him that. I've already told him
Mm,
about you. He knows about you, and he
yeah.
loves you regardless of those things. So
Woo,
you don't have to tell him anything. He will already,
baby.
because I've already spoken to him about you. I've
Yeah.
already given, and so when God told me that, when he shared that with me, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah. That
So
is so
so
beautiful. And
I've
that's
come
why it's
to
important to have a
a
relationship with Christ,
yeah,
right? So he can
yeah,
reveal those things.
yeah.
But it's also
And
good and
God,
important to wait for the
yeah.
one that God has for you. Yes, it's challenging to wait.
Mm-hmm,
Yes, it's challenging to wait, but the wait is
mm-hmm,
so worth it. And I think Sarah Jake said something to the sort of, she said to her husband, Taraji, Like every tear that I cried, every night that I cried alone, praying for my husband or in a bad relationship, every tear that I cried
Mhm.
was worth it. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow,
Yeah,
right? Because now she got
that's deep.
everything that she prayed for. And I was like,
Yeah, that's
I
deep.
want that, God. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
deep.
gonna, God told me he gonna chase me. He's gonna pursue me and
Mhm.
pursue me
Mhm.
hard, right? Like, I don't
Mhm.
gotta chase him. I don't gotta
Yeah.
convince him. I don't gotta
Mhm.
over explain. I don't gotta do none of
Mhm.
that, right? And so,
Mhm.
like in these
Mhm.
dating streets, Victoria, when I tell you the
Mhm.
men that have been trying to come in my life,
Mhm.
they've been back. Okay.
Wow.
Had a guy like we met at a mutual spot. We connected. He'll text like once a week, and I'm like, it's not gonna work. I don't know
Mhm.
you. I prefer to get to know new people.
Yeah.
We talk, we have conversation, we can meet, we can go for a walk. We don't gotta spend no money,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
He actually texted me today. He's on my blacklist. I blocked him like a week ago. Like I haven't heard from you for 2 weeks. You say you want to hang out with me and all this other stuff, but again, where's the work? Where's the pursuit? I'm
Mhm.
not gonna chase you, right? God already
Mhm.
told me that mine
Yeah.
will chase me. And
Yeah.
so I just laughed, like he really expect me to. First of all, he just text a raggedy old text, then call.
Mhm.
2 weeks later, you really think I'm a text back? No, thank you. Um, so I thought that was funny. And then another guy that I went on a date with, he was much older, and still had the mentality of a 30-year-old, right?
Mm.
We went on a date.
Age means nothing when it
No, it's about mentality. Girl, let
Yeah.
me tell you, it's about mentality. Went on the first
Yeah.
date, cool conversation or whatever. At the end of the night, he was like, "You gonna give me some sugar?" You know he old
Oh,
because he said, "You gonna give me
wow.
some sugar?" I said, "I
Wow.
don't know you like that to be kissing
Wow.
on you when you don't know me like that. So no." So he was a little offended. You'll be all right, right?
Yeah.
Second date, we went on. He was just so persistent. You gonna give me some
Mhm.
sugar? Oh, you want to go play
Oh,
pool? Go give me some sugar. Give me some sugar. And I was like, again, I don't know you to be putting my mouth on you. We're not in an exclusive relationship. We're not even together. Right? No. And then at the end of the night, he was like, "Oh, give me a hug." I was like, "Okay, do a little wide church hug pet."
mhm.
He
Mhm.
tried to kiss me on my neck. He like
Wow.
pulled me into him closer, and I ended up pushing him away. And I said, "Yeah, I'm good. Don't expect me to call you." The fact that I've had to say things
Yeah.
numerous of times that shows you don't respect me, you don't
Yeah.
show my boundary. At the end of the day, you're just trying to get some booty, right? And
He
that's
was missing the
I'm
cues.
good.
He was
I'm
missing the cues. Yeah.
I'm clearly
Yeah. Yeah.
like, what is
And that's
what is what is going on?
yeah, that's the plowing past you,
Yeah,
the cues that you are sending and giving. It's also kind of, we have to recognize and realize that there are 50 something, 60-year-old men that are still 5 and 6-year-old boys,
he's
you know,
he was
you know,
he was
because
he was
that
in the
problem,
60s.
they
He was
haven't
in the
matured,
60s.
right? And that's,
Yeah,
I'm gonna, I want this, right? That, that child that cries, that little boy that, whines or whatever, didn't
yeah,
have words, you know,
yeah.
and, they exist at 50,
Mhm.
60 years old, they
Sadly,
cry, get a little whine and get what they want.
sadly, this is why sadly my expectations on dating is very low, right? But this is also why I have the mindset like age doesn't matter,
Yeah.
statue don't matter. Like I always wanted a tall, dark, handsome man. Had a tall, dark, handsome man. Treated me whatever, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
want a man this age.
Mm-hmm.
Show up as 38, showing up as 14, right? So like people like, what's your type? I don't have a
Yeah.
type.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't specifically have a type. Oh, he has to look like this and all that. No. If for me, it's about mentality. Where's your mindset? How do you think? How do
Yeah.
you problem solve? How do you show up? How do you pray? Can you pray for
Yeah.
me? Do you believe in
Yeah.
Jesus? And
Yeah.
I always ask, do you believe in God? But I have to say Jesus because there's so many gods, right? I have
Yeah.
to say
Well, even be
um,
careful there.
Jesus Christ.
Because
Right.
yeah,
I'm just
I
like,
trusted
Lord.
trusted
Yeah. So
in the relationship with one of the men I was with and that I married and you know saw him as this man of God. I saw the
Mm,
promise on his life. I saw the call,
mm,
and trusted that, this was, and it wasn't, trust me, I didn't pursue him. He pursued
yeah.
me and said that God told him I was his wife.
Oh,
And
you there with
I
that lie, huh?
that I thought I saw the seeds, right? I thought I saw the fruit, rather,
Yeah.
and only to come to a conclusion and realize that he was dealing with some things that he had never admitted to himself
Mm,
or to me, and so trauma,
mm,
trauma happened, trauma came, and I thought, this is a man of God, he's gonna pray for me, and he's gonna, we're but when it was all said and done, he was just taken aback to, I think, this
mm.
person that he had been, he
Yeah.
reverted back, but I didn't know about that person, you know.
Wow.
It was kind of not transparent at all.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate,
Yeah.
I have some beautiful children. But I pray that God, that he repents, asks for forgiveness,
Mm, absolutely.
allows God to um to heal him, and be the man that God's called him to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that. So I want to start closing and saying it's amazing how healing our inner world transforms every relationship around us,
Mm.
right? It's like love finally became a reflection of wholeness, not
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you some closing questions, which are, what final message would you leave with someone who's just beginning their healing journey?
Mm.
What do you hope readers take away from your book?
Yeah, those are good questions. Um, I feel like if you're just starting your healing journey, it's a journey.
Mm,
And be for it to be slow. Be prepared for it's okay to be broken. Um, I think that God requires us to be broken,
mm,
on that journey, on the journey where He can heal you, where He can heal. You don't have to have all the answers. And healing is not, it's not a destination. It's a continued surrender. You have to surrender and surrender, to love, and love is divine, and it won't fail you.
mm,
And those that read I Am Victory, my book, my memoir.
mm.
Um, thank you.
I'm sure
Um,
people can go on Amazon.
yeah. If I could leave one thing, it's no part of your story, disqualifies you, from God's plan.
Mm,
That's a big part of my story. I want people to speak their story, give their story life, and that was I basically decided I'm going to use myself as an example here,
mm,
so that, and I'll take on whatever ridicule, whatever people think of me. I'll be that face. It's okay.
mm,
But even the broken chapters can birth beauty. And
mm,
victory isn't what you've achieved, but it's about who you've become in the
mm.
process. And you are not what happened to you. That was a big one for me. You are not
Yeah.
what happened to you. Your identity is not based on what happened to you.
Mm,
You are who God says you are, and you're chosen, you're seen, you're loved, and you're victorious.
mm. I got chills, goosebumps all up and down my arms. Praise God. Thank you so much, Victoria, for
Mhm.
being a part of my healing journey as I heal my inner child. Each episode, I go deeper and deeper
Yeah.
into my wounds. And so I'm really excited on the healing that God is going to do in this season while I'm on this journey. It's definitely not easy, but I encourage each and every one of you to begin to take off advantages and surrender them to God, because the Lord says, cast all your cares onto God. Even the
Yes.
things that you are think that are very uh, obsolete or small, God doesn't care. He wants them all, right? Because we are His children, right? So what father, what parent wouldn't want to know what's going on with their child or help their child put on the clean the wound and put on the bandage, right? Our God wants to do that. So I encourage you today to begin to do inner work on yourself and begin to heal one wound at a time and have grace with yourself as you go through this journey because you're not doing it for anybody but yourself. Thank
Yes.
you again for listening to this podcast. Tapping in. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook as well. Y'all have a good day. And remember, be bold, be blessed, be beautiful. Most of all, be you. Good night, good people.
Good night.